I just thought I would make a comment because in one of my groups there was a gal who has autistic children like I do, who was out in a restaurant and who had her lower functioning child, let's just say, who was a little loud. And she didn't think anything of it because at that time her child was, at her particular opinion, not as loud as she normally was. And I have experienced this to where I have been held in a grocery store with my then I think she was, let's see, she's 13, so I want to say she's about 12. We were in there and she was pretty loud herself. Well, this gal, when she was at the restaurant, an older couple literally walked after her and told her, you know what, you need to control your kid. And they wanted her to leave. And she tried to explain to them, you know, my child's autistic. And the couple next to her did not think that the child was that loud. As a person, as a parent in the autistic community, it's very frustrating to feel that rejection because you do feel like an outcast, because you want to fit in to normal society and you work really hard, because with autistic children there are stages. Like my child is 13, and she has both bipolar disorder and high functioning, well, it's not necessarily high, it's close to high but not so much, but it's taken a long time. It's taken a lot of experts and of course a behavioral health hospital and with medication, so it's taken a lot of effort, you know. And there's some things that she still can't do, but we're up there. But there are times where she has meltdowns, you know, when we have to leave. We can't go to Costco without, there's too much stimulation. So I understand their frustration, and I'm commenting because I want parents to understand that they're not alone. And what I want them, if it were me, I'd like the other parents to, at that moment in time, try to say that there are some of the older generations, and I even had my own father tell me, and he's passed away, God bless him, but he was serious. He said, you know what, after I filed for a divorce from my ex-partner, he said, look, he said, why don't you, at that point, before my daughter was where she is now, he said, look, put her in a mental institution or put her in a group home. He says, you're never going to have a life. You're never going to find somebody that's going to want to be with you or want to be in a relationship with you, because your kids are baggage. Because remember, he was, I want to say, let's see, he passed away when he was, 62? So I want to say he was, I want to say 60 at that time. I'm trying to remember. But in his time, a lot of older folks, when it came to people with disabilities, they would lock them up. They would put them in a mental institution. So I want people in general, and also people in the special needs community, if you could possibly remember that this generation, a great deal of them have brothers or sisters. And I do have an aunt that, unfortunately, her brother, he's passed away now a few years ago, but he had form of Down syndrome, and he was locked away. And that was not uncommon for that to happen, and it's tragic. Now, we don't have that mentality anymore, thank God. But the older generation does. And so I knew when this guy in the grocery store came up to me and he's like, why don't you do something with your daughter? And I told him, and of course I got pissed off, and I said, look, my daughter is bipolar and autistic, and she's on medication, she's doing the best she can, but you need to check your attitude. And he just kind of got offended, but I was like, I don't care, I'll get right back in your face. But I knew he was about 75, so I knew that the reason why he was the way he was because he was from that time where you put those kids away, you lock them up. A great many of them, you're not seen, you're not heard. Go away. We don't want to address that issue. So times are different, and I think people forget that. If you can't control your kid, military school, put them in a group home. Why are you taking them out here? And you will see people like that. And my own father was like that, which is tragic. And he was like that until the day he died. He said, you'll never get married again. And my own ex-partner took off. When my daughter was diagnosed, unfortunately, it progressed. The marriage, like many marriages, let's be honest, a great deal of the marriages that have a child who are diagnosed, most of them wind up in divorce, because the stress of having an autistic child, or really any type of special needs child, causes a great deal of stress on the relationship. So what happens, people do file for divorce greatly or separate. They don't stay together, and it's all usually one parent who is doing all the work. There's no equal give and take. One person, how does it start? They go to work all the time. They're never there. They never show up. They stay at their job more and more, and then they find somebody at the job. Then they start dating them. They're like, I don't, and like mine would say, I didn't sign up for this. I don't want this. I don't know how to handle this. And so they take off. They abandon the family, and they make an excuse of, and this is in general, apply it to yourself if you've had this experience. I didn't sign up for this. I don't want this. I didn't ask for this. And it's because some of them can't cope with the reality that their child is handicapped. And it's really sad, but they're also from that mentality that, and it could be that their own parents have that mentality that if you have a disabled child, you need to lock them away. So if they're raised by a parent that could possibly have a sibling that has Downs or something that is in an institution, they're freaking out because that's not how they were raised. So it's this sick cycle. So it is what it is. So many marriages fail if there's an autistic child. I've seen fathers of autistic children that have been abandoned by their wives. They're literally raising their own children because the partner took off. They're just playing. So there's no specific gender. It happens to everybody. And so when you're out in the restaurant, hell, a grocery store, and it doesn't have to be this massive meltdown. It could be that they're just hyperactive. With my daughter, she was just kind of repeating the same thing, like I want to go, and then she would get louder, and then she would just kind of come back and grab stuff. Because it's almost like she had ADHD, but she doesn't. And that's where he was kind of getting pissed off. And I was like, dude, you're overreacting. But some children are louder, they'll bang their head, they'll do certain things. And if most people now are actually, they know because everybody's so educated, which is wonderful. They know what autism is, whether it's mild, classic, Asperger's, which I do think they changed it to the higher form. I know my another one of my children has that. But most people understand and they're supportive. All communities are. But there's this one section that just they don't get it. And so I just wanted to put this out there because I feel my heart goes out to all these people, and we're seeing this more and more, especially those parents, men and women that are being abandoned. And I am reading it and I'm talking to people, especially, the other day, and it's just heartbreaking, when they're out in public or they're being abandoned flat out by the partner. It's like, I don't want to deal with this. And so it does happen, and I know from my own personal experience, I had a parent tell me this, and I was blown away. And he did not stop with that opinion until the day he died, and he just was persistent. You will never find anybody because you have disabled children. And that was how he was raised, and his parents were the same way, and his grandparents were the same way. And it's just this cycle. And you will find people like that. So please don't ever feel bad if you see this and understand it's from many generations ago, but there are still some people that believe this. And if you see younger people like this, it's because they are not mature enough to want to raise a disabled child, or they just don't want to deal with it. They want a stress-free life. So they will leave you, or they will do whatever they can to get out of this situation. That's my personal experience, and I've seen this several times. So there's a lot of positive things. You will meet new people, make a lot of friends. There is a wonderful community out there, and there are people. And that's the thing, my dad was wrong. There are people who will be in a relationship with you because there are people that are like you. So they are wrong. And my dad was, obviously he's wrong. And that's the thing, is you got to remember that these are people that are closed-minded, and they live in kind of their own point of view, their own kind of worldview that goes back like 50, 60, 70 years. It's not modern, So that's a warped type of viewpoint. People don't think like that for the most part anymore. But I just wanted to make this opinion so if anybody's going through this, and I know like this one specific gal was, please don't feel bad. It's not you, it's them. It's not you, it's not your child. These people have an opinion, and most people are very wonderful, very kind, very understanding. And there are a lot of wonderful people who are just